Hey everybody, this is Geoff Welch, and I am super excited to be here with Greg Hemmings. Greg is somebody that I had the chance to meet at an event with Seth Godin a handful of months ago. And aside from both being drummers and both having sweet beards, no, he's got the sweet beard. I have baby face. Aside from that, I think that we share a lot of similarities in terms of the way that we think about business and kind of what we want to do with our work. And so I want to kick it to you, Greg, to give just a little bit of background on the business you do. You're a filmmaker, and you are also a prolific podcaster, the Boiling Point podcast. So tell us a little bit about your business and about your podcast and maybe how those things connect. And just give us the 2 minutes on Greg.
Well, thanks so much, Geoff, for bringing me on. It's really neat that we met at a Seth Godin conference because it's funny when you meet somebody. It takes a long time to figure out those parallels. You know, what is it about you and me that are similar that we can actually start a conversation about? Mm-hmm. And it's funny, right before we started this little video, you and I were talking about the fact that we're both drummers, that we both played in church growing up, and that you're really good at playing with the click track when you're drumming and recording, and I'm not. These are the conversations that we have that build empathy between people. And when I say empathy, how do I understand you better, and how do you understand me better? And how do we find those similarities that we can create exchanges that are actually going to make positive impacts? Yeah. The fact that we were at Seth Godin together took away a lot of that energy of trying to figure out who each other are, because those of us who've invested our time in listening and reading Seth and actually spending money to go down and spend 2.5 days with him and with each other tells me a ton of stuff about you and vice versa without us even talking. So everything that I just rambled on about there is what my business is all about. So our business, my company is called Hemmings Pictures, and we are a film production company. Most film production companies sell videos and films. We like to say that we sell change. So we are helping communities make positive social change by telling globally relevant and locally impactful stories. And that's everywhere from helping a brand tell their corporate story that's helping them become better corporate citizens, to us telling our original stories on TV and making television series or documentaries that are really showcasing what amazing people are doing in amazing communities and selling these programs around the world. And we've really come to this really neat place where over a decade of building a commercial production company where we do TV commercials, corporate videos, etc., as well as an original content company where we're building documentaries and television series, where we're finding, commissioned and original is starting to go like this, where the brands that have heart and the brands that have aligned values, I'll use Patagonia as an example, good companies who are doing their best to do good in the world, who are doing the best to protect the environment and doing the best to become profitable. Those type of companies are now realizing that the best way of engaging with their customer base is not by throwing advertisements at them anymore. It's about engaging with their community as somebody who is walking alongside of them. And we're finding that brands like that who are willing to invest in important stories that need to be told are the ones that are actually building massive, almost cult-like followings. And I say cult-like in a fact that there's a community of people who may or may not be customers of the brand, but they become brand ambassadors of the brand because they've invested in telling a story that needs to be told. Otherwise, it's a story that wouldn't be told and wouldn't make a community a better place. That's a big, long rambling. I can go way deeper into that, but that's kind of where we're at right now, is using our original storytelling acumen and connecting it with the needs of brands and helping brands usher themselves in a trusting environment with social groups, social movements, and making a beautiful, trusting relationship between them. And the output of that is positive social change.
That's great. And so you also have a podcast. I want you to just give us a quick 411 on that to round out. So Boiling Point, what's that all about?
The podcast I have is and am I breaking up right now? Are you hearing me okay?
Good. Yeah.
Okay. The Boiling Point podcast is a podcast that interviews changemakers, entrepreneurs, artists, everybody who's actually working passionately to make a positive change the world. And it's called The Boiling Point because I'm sitting in our little sound booth. Hi, hello, right here. And it's that small. And it's myself and another grown man who, and sometimes a guest in here. And it gets so hot that the first 2 episodes, we didn't have a name for the podcast. And if you go to theboilingpointpodcast.com, you'll hear in episode 2, a guy named David Alston talking about, my gosh, man, it's so hot here. It's like, we're at the boiling point. We got to end this interview. It's like, that's the name of the episode. So we have a great podcast that has really made a dent. And we had, if you guys know about the Dragon's Den in Canada, but Dragon's Den would be the very same thing as the Shark Tank in the U.S.
Yeah.
Kevin O'Leary, etc. And the Dragon's Den in Canada, our podcast as one of the top 5 must listen to entrepreneur podcasts. And we're just full of yahoos. I'm a filmmaker, Dave's an executive coach, and we just want to talk to people, and that's it. But we've been doing it week after week for many weeks, and it's a great way to do it and great way to share stories. And I can't wait to get you on it, Geoff, because it's people like you and people like me and all these other people who are doing really neat things that aren't necessarily in the news every day, that not everybody knows. Yeah. But these are the champions of positive change that we're interviewing.
That's awesome. Well, I would love to do that, and that's very, very kind of you. So part of why I want to talk to you today, in addition to the wonderful work that your company is doing, is to talk about a recent change you've made in the certification of your company. So companies have lots of different business structures, and that can be a very boring thing to talk about. But there's a relatively new business structure called the B Corp. That has some interesting properties, and you guys have just gone through quite a process to become a B Corp. And I wonder if you'd talk a little bit about your experience with that, kind of explain maybe what a B Corp is and why you guys were interested in pursuing that.
Yeah, well, okay. B Corporation, if you don't know what that is, please go to www.bcorporation.net and just check out the quick little video so you understand what I'm talking about. But B Corporation is in the U.S. is a legal incorporation structure that pretty much protects the positive impact mission of a company from its shareholders. It's a really weird thing to say. Right now, the way a corporation is structured is legally, if we were a public company, we have to, at all, with all efforts, make sure that the number one stakeholder is our shareholder. Mm-hmm. So if we're not making profit for a shareholder, we are liable to be sued. Mm-hmm. So I'll give you an example. If I was in the textile industry making shirts, and I really wanted to source it from ethical producers, make sure the chemicals and the dyes weren't going into rivers, making sure we still might be having it manufactured in Bangladesh, but make sure that people are being paid very fairly, etc. That's the type of company I want to make. Now, we go public, investors want to see more and more and more and more profit, and then they see that we are not going to go to that other factory across the river that's dumping their chemicals in the river and having children work at substandard levels. We are going to stick to our guns and pay more money to make the product, but it's going to be done in an ethical way. Shareholders have all the right in the world, the legal right to sue us as the owners of the other company, because we're not maximizing shareholder value. And that's a problem because if we want to make change in the world as company owners, oftentimes as we grow, and if you're not growing, you're going the opposite way. So if you want to grow, investment usually comes, and eventually you might go public. All these pressures start happening to keep on growing and scaling. Mm-hmm. So B Corporation, that was produced by this group called the B Labs, made this legal entity that protects us from that situation. We can still be a public company, but we have to serve more than one stakeholder. So we have to honor the profit that shareholders want. We have to honor the planet, i.e. the environment. We have to honor people. So making sure that we are treating people right, we're not exploiting people, etc. And that's what we call a triple bottom line. Yeah. So on the balance sheet, we usually measure profit, which is the one of the P's.
Mm-hmm.
Very important. We need to make profit to make
Sure.
positive change in the
Sure.
world, but we have to do it by not exploiting human beings and not being disastrous to the environment.
Sure.
So that's what the B Corp is all about, and it's fully in alignment with what our company is all about. So that's why we took the big step, and it's been a great adventure, and it's really helped kind of gel our vision of a company and figure out what type of companies we want to work with and others that we don't. And it's a long process, but it's worthwhile.
Sure. And so maybe tell me just a little bit about the process, because it's not signing two forms. It's not you're not going down to the courthouse and put your name on a couple of sheets of paper. It's a bit of a process. You have to establish that you are the kind of company that honors those three things. Correct?
Yeah, that's right. So if you go to bcorporation.net, you will see that you've got an option to do, I believe it's like a 30-minute assessment and a 90-minute assessment. I think that's what it is. And all it is it's a series of questions. Questions like, do you have an advisory board? I.e., are you held accountable by people outside your organization? Yes or no? If it's yes, you just check it. You're like, okay, let's go to the next one. Do you have policies in place for maternity leave? For example, are you topping up salaries? As an example, yes or no? Maybe you put no. That's all fine. At the end of this assessment, you're going to get a score out of 200. You need to score 80 points out of 200. So you might be a company like a textile company that by nature isn't going to be really good for the environment, right?
Yeah.
By nature, makes sense. But your standards of employment and community involvement and give back are huge. So you can still very much be a clothing manufacturer and be a B. I have yet to see a big oil and gas company be a B Corp. I'm not saying it's impossible. But they're not making judgments on industries. They're helping stop businesses become better at what they do and cleaning up their supply chain. So another part, a massive part of the measurement is, what is your supply chain, and are you getting supplies from ethical sources? So if I was a retailer and if I was buying clothing from a company that we know has child labor and substandard working conditions and dumping crap into the rivers, we're going to score very low, right? So it forces us, if we want to become a B Corp, to clean up our own supply chain, put pressure on the supply chain below us to get them to clean up. So it's this really cool peer pressure thing. And
positive peer pressure, right?
You got it.
And so tell me though about, so there's the legal side of things where for you as an owner, as a founder, you're protected from shareholders eventually suing you because you have a vision for what you want your company to be about, and perhaps they don't agree. Perhaps it doesn't maximize profit. Do you think there's other value in going through the process? I mean, is it something that you feel is important for you just as an owner? Do you feel like it says something to the people you want to work with about the kind of business you are beyond just the legal ramifications?
Yeah, the legal side doesn't mean anything to me. There's a good chance I will be the majority owner of this company forever. There's a good chance. Like, this is not the type of company that is going to go public. We are a production company. It's possible, I guess, but that's not my current trajectory. So for me, it does two things. Number one, it's a phenomenal marketing opportunity. So like I said, meeting you at Seth Godin tells me a lot about it already. I don't have to go through the effort of figuring out. I already know this guy is into the same thing I am. We're part of the same tribe. So companies who are part of the same tribe want to support each other. So for a marketing only perspective, if I'm part of this club called B Corporation, who's sitting alongside of companies like Etsy and Patagonia and Ben & Jerry's and Plum Organics, like all these amazing companies, well, there's a whole lot of BS they don't have to wade through to figure out who I am. They already know, because it's not easy to become a B Corp. There's a ton of paperwork and certification stuff that you got to go through. So the marketing side, big check mark. Awesome. The really interesting side for me was protecting ourselves from ourselves. And that includes this statement, which is, as a startup company and as a small company, oftentimes we can't afford to put all the proper structures in place. Like, how, can't even afford the time to find the appropriate advisory board or put these policies in place. We don't have time. We're trying to make a business work.
Yeah.
Being a B Corp, it kind of forces you to create a business the way you're supposed to.
It's supposed to.
So it protects us from being complacent on how to actually put proper structures in place. But the other part is it really protects us from acting poorly. Like if there's a gray line about what's right or wrong, what's ethical, what's not ethical. And trust me, I've gone over the line many times about what stuff that I knew back then was not ethical. We all have. At the end of the day, we've got 11, 12 employees that need to get paid. So if an opportunity comes by, it's a good paycheck that rubs a little bit against your is, do you take it or not? Well, before becoming B Corp, you just take it, because the bigger impact is keeping people alive, keeping them employed. But saying that you're a B Corp, it makes you accountable to pushing harder and smarter and find the projects that you need to keep those people paid that are going to be not completely, but as in line as possible. And it's a process, and it doesn't mean as soon as you sign up to be a B Corp, you need to change the type of customers you've got. It just means that you're committed to getting better and better and better and better. And that's the commitment that we've made. And so, like I said, great marketing opportunity, great business structure opportunity, protects you, but really protects you from yourself.
That's great.
From your own old habits. Yeah.
So I appreciate you so much taking the time to give us a little bit of insight on this, because I think that it's something that is still a little bit esoteric for people. I don't think a lot of people in the business world have, at least a small business world, have heard of it. And so it gives us some great insight into why it's valuable. If people want to get in touch with you, if people have questions for you, want to know more about your podcast, your filmmaking company, where should I send them?
Okay, our company is called Hemmings House. So hemmingshouse.com. It's you can pretty much find out everything about us there. Our podcast is called The Boiling Point Podcast.com. And we've got a new startup, whole different corporation called Faya.tv. Faya, FYA.tv. Faya stands for your action. Right now, it's very small. There's only a minimal amount of content, but it is evolved to become our content channel for positive social change. And we're going to be actively finding other Hemmings House companies all around the world who are committed to positive social action using film to put content on here. We want to build an audience around this content and empower people to do better in their communities by using documentary filmmaking. So Faya.tv is another great way to get in touch. My email is greg@hemmingshouse.com, and my Twitter is @GregHemmings. So it's a whole whack of ways to get in touch.
All right, that's perfect. So people want to know more kind of about what you do. Lots of ways to get in touch with you. I appreciate you spending some time with me. It's such a treat. It was great to get to meet you. We were in a room of 80 people, and I feel like we barely got to talk while we were there. So it's been nice to be able to kind of catch up a little bit over time. But look forward to talking to you again in the future. And just thanks so much for your time.
Awesome, Geoff. Thanks so much, man.